the ocean floor cracked open. Molten lava spilled into the sea, and with every eruption, the ocean gave birth to islands. One by one, mountain peaks rose from the deep, cooled, solidified, and became land, and eventually, paradise. 2,000 years ago, a people arrived by canoe, navigating the waves by the stars. They called these islands home, and from that home, they built a sovereign nation, the Kingdom of Hawaii. A culture, a language, an identity. Born in isolation, but all of it would soon be stolen. Welcome back to Facts on Trial. Today we are diving into the story of how the United States took Hawaii, not through diplomacy, but with sugar, with missionaries, and with guns. For centuries, Hawaii remained distant, uncolonized, independent. Then came the visitors, American missionaries, arriving in the early 1800s to spread the gospel, wanting to talk about Jesus. You know, the usual white flag approach. One British explorer even gifted the Hawaiian king a British flag, and Hawaii eventually adopted the British flag into their own. But over time, the mission changed. They had children. Their children built businesses, and soon the talk of Jesus turned into talk of profit, specifically sugar. These American descendants gained land, influence, and wealth. By far the most valuable single product Hawaii could offer in that trade was sugar. With this increased economic interest, these Americans who had originally come to be missionaries were now much more into sugar, and they did what people of 1875 did. European descent have been doing for many centuries, looking at a culture and government different from theirs and saying, we think we could do this better. And as their sugar empires grew, so did their desire for power. They started to whisper, we could run this place better. Let us take it from here. They slowly chipped away at the Hawaiian government. Still outsiders, but rising fast. By the late 1800s, these American settlers controlled massive wealth. By the end of the 1800s, these children of sugar baron Americans had amassed a huge amount of Hawaii's wealth. The original missionaries who had come to the islands to convert people to their religion years earlier now had grandkids that looked like this, a full-on armed militia of white Hawaiian citizens, descendants of the missionaries, who were eager to get the government out of the way so they could run the country themselves and make it more favorable for their sugar businesses. Now, remember, these guys were born in Hawaii. They considered themselves the Hawaiians. Their grandparents preached the Bible. Now, their grandchildren marched with rifles. But even still, their loyalty still lay with the country of their ancestors. They were effectively Americans. By 1893, this local white militia and their political allies were ready for a full-on takeover of the government, which at the time was headed by this woman, Queen Liliʻuokalani. These grandchildren were still a minority, and a full-on overthrow of the government would have been hard by themselves. But luckily for them, they had help. The American ambassador of Hawaii at the time helped coordinate the arrival of an American military ship and troops to show up on the shores of the island of Oahu into the capital city of Honolulu. Just imagine what this meant for the locals of Hawaii, who accepted these strangers as brothers, ate with them, prayed, and did clean business with them. Up until this point, the conflict in Hawaii was technically internal, meaning it was between the locals and the white missionaries, who were technically locals because they were born there. But the moment the US arrived in Honolulu to provide military backup for a government overthrow, it became a full-blown military coup sponsored by a foreign power, a cardinal sin in international relations. And imagine this, you welcomed these people, ate with them, prayed with them, and shared their faith, even accepted to practice it, treated them as one of you only for them to treat you this way. But even still, the government backed the overthrow. The Queen was forced to give up her power, and they put this guy as the leader of the new Republic of Hawaii. His name was Sanford Dole. His family was huge in the sugar business. You remember Dole, the pineapple guy? Yeah, that one. He was the leader of the country of Hawaii. The locals fought this, but peacefully. They protested. Nearly every adult on the island signed a petition condemning the takeover. Back in Washington, D.C., a debate began as to what to do with Hawaii, now that a bunch of pro-American missionaries turned sugar warriors had grabbed power. Dole himself traveled to D.C. to lobby for the U.S. to take over Hawaii for themselves, but so did a group of local Hawaiians to oppose the American encroachment. The Queen, who was overthrown, wrote a letter demanding to be reinstated as the legitimate leader of the Kingdom of Hawaii. The United States was split on what to do until 1898, when the new president surrounded himself with leaders who kind of loved war and American expansion. And this is what sealed the fate of Hawaii. All of these displays of vehement, peaceful protest by the Hawaiian people were trampled on by a superpower who had bigger guns and an insatiable desire for control. So one summer day in 1898, the U.S. showed up, and the flag of the Kingdom of Hawaii was taken down, and the U.S. flag was raised. Hawaii was now officially a possession of the United States of America. With the help of these sugar-loving missionaries, these islands had been plucked from their people and put in the hands of a growing superpower. But stealing land is one thing. The real theft is what happened next. At this point, Hawaii was just a U.S. territory, not a state. But even still, the U.S. began a deep, widespread destruction of Hawaiian way of life. The Hawaiian language was banned in schools. Government and businesses were, by law, required to be conducted in English. The U.S. began developing land, often on sacred sites, and the history itself was censored to make it seem as if the Hawaiian people welcomed the U.S. without a fight. Much of the real history became inaccessible because it was only documented in the Hawaiian language, which was beginning to die. And then, in 1959, Hawaii became the 50th state of the Union and quickly became the place we know today. Meanwhile, Dole Food Company, the company that was perhaps helped the most by this land grab, has become a massive global corporation. By 1993, Hawaii was a full-on part of the United States. That year, President Bill Clinton came out with an apology, a presidential apology. At the White House yesterday, President Clinton signed a formal letter of apology to the people of Hawaii. He was apologizing on behalf of the U.S. government for the government's involvement 100 years ago in removing the independent Hawaiian monarchy by force. But despite this horrendous land grab and the pillaging and theft of these islands, there is a little bit of hope here. That spirit of peaceful resistance that led to petitions and protests back in 1893 persisted even after the takeover. The Hawaiian language was delicately preserved through painstaking effort, and today there are full immersion Hawaiian language public schools. Hawaiian traditions have stayed alive, and last year, Hawaiians showed that they were not willing to give up their sacred sites. They staged a dramatic protest to protect a holy mountain that was slated to be developed on. Hawaii may have been stolen, and attempts made to erase its culture, but while the negative effects of this imperial land grab are wide-reaching, many pillars of this beautiful culture have survived. This has been Facts on Trial, uncovering truths history tried to bury.